have a little like tiny person with a cork in there with food, and they just drop the food from overhead the door. They drop food into his mouth.
AoA, that's a triple play. New episodes, I couldn't wait. Yeah, open your mind at the first gate. Press play, no need to debate. AoA, check me out. Look, plugged in, you can catch the hype. Golden Dawn, how we follow the light. Anime like life, married to it, my wife.
What is going on, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of all ages? Welcome back to the AoA show. I'm your host, as always, Ian, along with the boys, Isaiah.
Oh, hi, oh.
And Gavin.
Oh, what is Gucci of the Shoesies?
And some of you might be pleased to hear that we're covering My Hero again, ladies and gentlemen. This is happening. For those of you who've been following the show for a little while, this is one of the OG shows, right? When we were first starting off, we had a little bit of The Promised Neverland. We had Attack on Titan when Season 3 was airing, and My Hero was right on the heels of that. And here we are again, coming full circle here, except a little bit bigger, a little bit nicer space, and a little bit better opinions, I would say, in terms of anime. We've got a little bit under our belt, and we've been at this for a little while now.
We've gotten worse.
Or maybe we got
Which
worse.
is louder.
That's actually a great point. That's for you to decide. Just in general, you know,
We've already peaked, guys.
yeah, peaked in high school. It's over. No, but I'm excited. I like when these anime come around again for a second round, and to see, it's a nice marker to see how far we've come as a show in terms of the fan base and all that kind of stuff. And My Hero is definitely one of those markers. So here we are. We're covering season 5. This is episode 1 of season 5, or episode 89 in totality. All hands on deck, class 1A. So we're going to be going over our initial impressions on the episode, what stood out to us, what we're excited to see moving forward, etc. Make sure you guys are joining that conversation in the comments down below, what you thought of our discussion, what stood out to you this episode, where you want the show to go, things you were excited to see again, because it was sweet to get all the characters' abilities again. I know you said it during the reaction, but you were like, you know, you're like, for a second, I'm like, why are you showing me all these characters again? I already know their abilities. And you're like, oh yeah, he does that, right? Like, that was some funny stuff. You know, but it was cool. It really got you back into the My Hero mood here when we get hop back in. It's like, this is what I miss, you know, because there were some up and downs, you know, with consistency with season 4. We were talking about this and we were like, there's some arcs that were hit or miss for some of us and all that kind of stuff. But now we're back here again in episode 1. I'm already in on the My Hero train again. This is going to be really cool. Definitely check out our reaction as well. What is there, like a bug or something? You good?
Yeah, something just like dropped from the ceiling, and I thought it fell on me, and I was like, ugh. But then it just hit the floor and just fucking like crawled out the door.
You gonna be all right?
I don't know. All so sudden.
We got a show to record. All right, let's snap with it here.
I'll see you guys later.
Oh, man. Anyway, like I said, folks, make sure you guys are checking out our reaction as well, because we'll be reacting to the entirety of this season. You can catch it. The link is in the description down below. AoA Reacts, our reaction channel there. But anyway, let's talk about this episode here. Gavin, you keep on giving me these weird smirks. So, like, what is it that you got on your mind here?
Because I have a weird thought process going on where I can't help but feel like if I had just binge watched this, like, My Hero as a series, this first episode would have pissed me the fuck off, because I already know I've watched shows binging, and it's like you just catch up. You're like, I'm ready for the first episode, and for, like, in all reality, this was just a recap episode. The first half was going over Endeavor in that fight, and then we go back in to see the quirks and how, you know, their synchronization is in terms of fighting and teamwork and things like that, and like getting a rehash of the characters. And for us, we've been so disconnected that it's like, oh great, wow, like what you said before. And in my mind, I'm just playing where if I like had just watched and got caught up and wanted to see the first episode, I would be literally cursing like through the roof, because I wanted something crazy to be like extended on, and this was full recap. But like, we obviously appreciate it because of our situation. But I'm just picturing people like who like rewatch the show just for this moment and who are probably so angry that it's just been a recap that like it's just making me laugh on the inside.
No, I think you actually bring up a good point, all jokes aside, though, in that an episode or a show can sometimes hit different depending on if you binge it compared to as if you watch it weekly, right? We had this discussion briefly the other week with Attack on Titan. I won't spoil anything, but essentially we were not reacting to it and kind of, you know, all that kind of stuff until season 4 came along, right? Because now we have the means to do so. And, you know, there was unfortunately an earthquake in Japan the other week, so it made it so the next week there were 2 episodes in a day. And for anyone who watches Attack on Titan, you know that show is heavy, right? There's a lot of depth that goes into it. And I kind of forgot, because there have been times where I rewatched or I binged or whatever, like first season, and we all said when we watched 2 episodes, we're like, whew, that's a lot to take in, right? Like this is a show that you might need to kind of take it one week at a time, and everyone's different, but I could see that because I think for people that have waited for a long time and have been already caught up, they haven't been watching any My Hero in the meantime and all that kind of stuff, myself included, this was a nice episode for the reasons I mentioned, right? Where it kind of reintroduced us and got us back into the mood, right? Be like, hey guys, this is My Hero again. Like whatever else you've been watching, this is our thing. Like let's get back in this My Hero mood. And it kind of pumped me up for it because for those things that you may have forgot or whatever, but for people that were binging it potentially, I could see what you mean. This is actually probably pretty annoying how they do that because they actually do that frequently. And, how they show the abilities like every time and all that kind of stuff. So I can see what you're saying because the real stick out moments then were, I would argue the Endeavor moments, right? Where we had some of the shot at the end where he's in the hospital and he has the flashback to when the one villain guy came out and Dobby and apparently brokered some sort of deal, I don't know, with the help of Hawks and all that sort of thing. So that I can see what you're saying there, but it was cool to relish, at least for us, for where we were in the moments that we had with some of our favorite heroes and some of our not so favorite heroes as well. But yeah.
Like that's like one of the weirdest things that you guys are going to question probably my existence on why I noticed this. But when he was in the hospital, like I really appreciated the detail that they go into on some of these scenes because probably no one in existence would notice this. But when he opened his eyes and was looking up at the ceiling, it is going to sound like the weirdest detail ever. But like I don't know why I appreciate it, but there was a door above him, if you noticed, and it's an access door in the ceiling to the purpose is there was a light right there and a little door, and it's so like if you were to do like maintenance on said light, that you need a door to go through, reach in to fix the light.
Sure.
And like for me, just in my line of work, like I have to look out for these things. And when he opened his eyes, I saw it, and I was like, wait, they really like thought to put an access door for that light. Like that is legitimately where it would be in real life. And like that is just one thing where you could have just put a normal ceiling tile there and nobody would have known. But it's like that detail, like I appreciate it. And I was like, wow, they really they put a lot of thought into it. And just that like minute thing, I gave them a lot of respect for it. And as random as it sounds, I got to throw them out there for it because that was top notch.
Or they just have a little like tiny person with a cork in there with food, and they just drop the food from overhead the door. They drop food into his mouth. That's what it's for, right?
You know what? Now that Ian said that random thing, that does make sense.
Yeah. Whatever Gavin
Look,
said.
I know like it's your line of work and everything, but like Ian put a whole 5 seconds into that. Like that's gotta be what it is.
Absolutely. Why would they put a door on a ceiling if not for that? Because that's ridiculous. To fix the light, get a ladder. What the hell's wrong
Gavin,
with you?
please think about stuff before you just blurt it out. It's ridiculous.
Unreal. What are we paying for?
I do actually though. We kind of went into this off camera, but I do want to just bring up quickly the other thing that I do think is of note, which is the way that this drill exercise ends, which is specifically with Deku having the opening to, like win the exercise or complete it or whatever, or take out the villain.
Lay out Sun Eater.
Yeah. And chooses not to, and then Bakugo coming in and doing it, but then like overdoing it. Because I do think, obviously like none of these prior seasons have like shied away from this, but this is the big deal, right, between these two, because they're kind of the star contenders when it comes to this class, as far as like who's going to reign supreme, so to speak. And with Deku sort of being like the one that was, in a sense, literally chosen by All Might, by the previous successor. But then you have Bakugo, who sort of has like the, I would say like, if we're just talking about, professional heroes and trying to, like the Endeavor style of like the willingness to pull the trigger type thing. There's a clear split between these two. And we were talking about it off camera, like I said, but like finding this way, I guess, to merge their personalities and or their mindsets, right? Because like I don't believe that it was a thing of like Deku wouldn't have done it. I just think that it was like because of the extra, like, you know what I mean? Like logistically thinking, he's like, why the fuck would I lay out Sun Eater? Like this is one of the he's not a pro hero, but one of our allies. On a side note, I do think it was kind of nasty that like the main three here kind of just got regulated to playing the villain role of the thing.
It was hilarious. It was
hilarious, especially the boy Mirio, because he put in fucking 110% into his role.
He sold that.
He was the most powerless one, but the one who performed the best, in my opinion. Because the girl, I forget her name.
The out of the big three?
Yeah, Negumi, right?
I
starts with an N. That's all I remember.
Gavin,
if you don't mind. But She was unfortunately the worst. I mean, like she kind of got put down in a second. She tied somebody up, but then in a second,
there she is.
Oh, Nejide. It just kind of got wiped in a second. The boy Sun Eater, he was scrapping. He put up some fight, but like I said, Deku, I think could have laid him out had he given that blow, and then Bakugo
100%.
did lay him out and then some. So I wonder though, like going forward, if it's going, I wonder like how the show is going to tackle this dynamic, right? Because there's something else, Gavin, you were saying before, which like, from a show, making the show perspective does make sense. It's like, they're not like ready to sort of like end that conflict between these two yet. So like, I wonder how long either like it's going to get drawn out, if they're going to address the need to change that, if it's going to be a slow, gradual change. Because, again, just personally, it's getting a little stale. I mean, I do kind of wish they would end it. And we brought up the movie only because it is canon, right? Like
No.
It's canon.
So, no. Well,
it's
that's
canon.
because that's why they wiped the memories.
That's why they wiped it.
So, but what I'm getting at is that like, that's my thing, is that like, if they put it in the movie, like the thought to address this relationship has been made, right, by the people who like create this story in the show. So it just, in my mind, I'm like, okay, what are we waiting for? Because if we did it in the movie and then felt the need to drop back on it and be like, oh no, not yet. I'm like, is there like a beat in the manga that they're waiting to hit? You know what I mean?
So here's my maybe prediction here. Obviously, they're going to have to center each other because they're like two opposite magnets right now that are just pulling, and they need to come to a center because Deku needs to, quite frankly, nut up sometimes when it comes to, not that he's cowardly in like just a broad sense, but when it comes to that, hey, you might have to put the hurt on someone that you didn't want to put the hurt on, and you're going to have to make sure you commit 110%, no pun intended. But also Bakugo as well, where it's like, yo, relax, that's your teammate. Like, you're lucky that there is like this lack of realism in the sense that you just basically put a bomb off in the city and like he's okay, like haha, we all frizzed hair, but it's like realistically Bakugo, you're gonna have to like take a couple beats back here, because notice how Bakugo as well is like, oh, there's a person, he's like, no, we're going for the villain. Like that wasn't even a thought, right? Where the priority here as heroes is human life at the end of the day. So they're gonna have to center each other, but I think where it's gonna come into play with Deku and where he's gonna have to go a little bit more towards the Bakugo, I guess if you want to call it, or a little bit more embracing his shadow side a little bit here, is I think I'm almost positive, somebody correct me if I'm wrong here, or if you could clarify what I'm saying. Or there's a traitor amongst their school. There's someone who's feeding information to the enemies here, because I'm pretty sure I've seen some, because I'm pretty sure they reference this, All Might references it, or someone, and they're like, how are they getting said information on the school? And they're like, there has to be someone that's leaking information to them. We haven't found out who it is yet. I know there were a lot of Reddit forums of people that like haven't read the manga, and there were like predictions that it was actually Denki, the electric guy. Like the whole I go stupid thing is actually a ploy. Like he doesn't, like there's a lot of like
tired of getting used by the
like something like that. He's tired of getting used as a car battery for everyone. Like point is that I'm almost positive there's a traitor. So I think this scene is relevant because I think Deku, if there's a traitor and it's someone close, it's going to be someone that like Deku has spent some time with, and doesn't want to beat the hell out of, right? There's going to be a moment where he's probably going to have the opportunity to like lay this dude out or chick, and he's going to have to come to grips with the fact that it's like, oh, even though I've spent all this time with this person, we've been through thick and thin here, this person's been a traitor, and I have to lay them out right now. I think that's going to be very relevant. For Bakugo, maybe. I don't know if they go this route. I don't know if Bakugo is going to be later or whatever, but I could see a route where there is a villain, quote unquote, that isn't necessarily like
bad to be bad,
or there's like something going on behind the scenes where it's like this person's being put up to it, like their family's being held hostage, like some crazy shit. Maybe that's pretty surface level, maybe it's a little more intricate than that, but like Bakugo has to go there and realize that, okay, I can't like beat this dude to an actual pulp, because this guy's kind of a victim of circumstance here. And for me to do that, it's like, am I really the good guy, or do I just enjoy fighting people and like beating the shit out of them? That's like kind of, there's another half to being a hero here. So I could see that maybe. I think the Deku thing's going to happen this season though. Personally, I think that's why they highlighted that so well. But I think it's a good point that you bring up.
Because the other thing is like, it's, at least for Bakugo, it's kind of the Endeavor arc, right? Where it's like, oh, he likes fighting and he wants like the flashy fame and glory of like being the strongest hero. Yeah. But again, being a hero is not being the strongest person in the room. It's being the one who's willing to sacrifice himself for the greater good, for people, for innocent people, right? Which we haven't really seen Bakugo, jump at the opportunity to do.
Yeah, they have
Yeah.
parallels for sure. Endeavor, I'm really curious. He's actually the number one, again, no pun intended here, character or hero that I am most excited to see his character development / arc, what happens with him, because I think that's a huge deal that they made an emphasis on, is taking up the mantle of the number one, who for all intents and purposes was like a god among men. You know, like Endeavor, like for as hard as he went, All Might, like if I had to guess, is still like here. You know what I mean? It's like ridiculous. His powers beyond ridiculous. So Endeavor's got huge shoes to fill, number one. So he's got to fill those shoes, but also make it his own thing. So I thought that was interesting where he says, I rose the left hand instead of the right, or he rose the left, I rose the right. Someone I remember when we covered this in season 4, the finale, when we were over Discord, we were still doing our podcast over that, and we talked about it, and there was somebody who commented the significance between that, where it's like, All Might was the symbol of peace or hope or whatever, whereas Endeavor was the symbol of struggle or whatever, and like there was a symbology between the left and the right hand. Point is, he's got his own thing that he's got to do, but he's also got to fill those shoes, and while also overcoming his personal demons of the amount of pain that he's inflicted on his wife, who seems to be shell-shocked by the whole thing, and his son, who is kind of estranged. I know you were saying there might be a theory that you think the I forgot his Dobby is another one of his sons, which could make sense considering he's got fire as well. Point is, he's done a lot of harm to a lot of people and himself in that sense. And I'm really curious to see how he overcomes those personal demons and shows and becomes the shining symbol as the number one hero, and what his version of it is going to be moving forward. There's going to be a whole new dynamic that because they can't just have All Might come and just blow everyone away with tornado fists anymore. Like Endeavor, from what we saw in that last fight, puts life and limb on the line. He almost lost, in his first go at it. So I'm really excited to see his character growth in this season. He's becoming one of my favorite characters in general.
One of the characters that I'm probably the most interested after this episode to get like the 4-on-1 on is Hawks, because
he's cool.
Whatever that altercation was between Endeavor, Dobby, and Hawks, seemingly Endeavor. The only reason I want to say Endeavor made it to the hospital is because of whatever Hawks told him or agreed to do with him. Because I don't imagine Endeavor was in any situation to like stand up and fight Dobby back. So I like this idea again, and like it's echoed in the fight from the season 4 finale, but that like Hawk sees his role as the hero behind the number one to like literally be in his shadow, to be his support, and to be like, all right, you stand in front of the cameras, you give these people hope, but I'm going to do like what has to be done. And like, even if that means getting like a little bit dirty, even if that means getting a little gray, like I'll be back here making sure that anytime you do fall, somebody's there to push you and stand back up. And I wonder if that means, like I said, this area of getting gray, if it means dealing with heroes and villains rather. And, I don't know, maybe like brokering deals with them, or like being, I honestly don't know, because the way that they frame it at the end of the episode, that's kind of what it seems like. But then the preview, like it seems like Hawks is still making a stand to be like, look, we got this thing going, but you fuck with like people, and like deal's done. But like I don't know, because like I said, if this theory does pan out that like Dobby has a specific connection to Endeavor, I like this idea again, like you were saying, of Endeavor having to tackle his demons. Like Dobby is the pinnacle, right? Of he is not only somebody that Endeavor hurt, but like tormented so much, or again, I don't know what I don't even know if that's true, but if it is, like Dobby has gone to the about as extreme as you can get in terms of like what that trauma and damage could do to a person. So it'd be interesting. It's interesting to see why Dobby specifically was there, if he was there more like a representative of the League of Villains, or if he's like, no, at Dobby, like personally, I came here. Like what the fuck they said, what if there's a deal, what's going on here? Because like I was saying before, my main thing, dude, is like I'm scared, because like this little drill that they had was all fun and cute, but it's like, dude, if the level of threat now is like those Nomus, forget the League of Villains for a second. Those Nomu, the one Nomu that Endeavor fought, like it almost kills Endeavor. Endeavor's the number one hero now, and that thing literally, just one of them almost killed Endeavor. Like, they just have to make one more. I feel like they just have to make one more, and we are fucked. Like it took Hawks and Endeavor to take down one. Yeah. If we had just one more to hold them hostage or whatever, while the other one goes in the city, he's blowing up that whole city before Endeavor even makes to the building. It's crazy. I'm like, these drills and stuff are like cute, but like, guys, I feel like we need to start prepping them for some serious, like, I don't know. And like, fair enough. It's like, how do you jack up the training to like that scale? But it's just like, I don't know. It just makes me worried.
I don't know. What do you think, Evan?
Yeah, no, and same thing with when you were talking about brokeraging a deal possibly with the League of Villains. I wonder if that is the question of a trader in a sense, where maybe it's Hawk having to give them certain pertinent information for the safety of everybody else. Because, like, let's be real here, what would the League of Villains want other than information about what's going on? And maybe that is the only way he can ensure safety. So it's coming across as like there's a traitor among our ranks, or a traitor among our ranks. But in Hawk's eyes, it's like, look, there's really nothing I can do other than, like, buying time in a sense for, the safety of everybody. So that would be interesting. The person I'm most curious about actually is going to be Todoroki in all of this, because obviously his dad, now that is rising to fame, who he already has a rocky relationship with, he is now seeing the growth of Endeavor and, the seemingly changing, personality that he has in taking up this new role and like having to be a figurehead in a sorts when he wasn't really always the best person. And now he really needs to be a good person because he's the new number one, filling in some pretty big shoes. So I have a feeling that the rest of this arc is actually going to focus more on Todoroki and how he is like, how he's going to deal with, his father's rise to fame, knowing the person that he was and seeing how he's growing and like literally just how he's going to handle it as a person and as his son. And is he going to be accepting to him being Endeavor, and how that is going to affect him in terms of fighting and just everything. Like, that's why I really feel like with Endeavor coming to fame, the show is almost going to shift in a sense away from Bakugo and Deku. Like, they're still going to be there, but it's really going to be like Todoroki and like his, personal growth, because we all know that he is a fucking powerhouse and like on the level of Bakugo and Deku. But like for the most part, we've seen him go off, but like he hasn't been like, the number one of the show. We're like really up there. And I feel like this might be the push to like kind of really make him like a staple in the show. At least that's my thought, especially if we're getting Dabi and if he is, the alleged son of Endeavor. Like, now you have two sons beefing it out, one good, one evil, with the father being the pinnacle. Like that's what I feel like the dynamic is going to go to, and I'm really excited because Todoroki needs he is so busted. Like, they can't keep
He's
him.
ridiculous.
They can't just keep him under the table for this long.
It does. Yeah, I agree. It does almost feel too like that. That holding back, let's just call it, or restraint, is almost, at least to an extent, self-imposed. Like Todoroki still has some mental hangups that like are keeping him from like really taking the, because I would say, like, let's be real, if Todoroki, I feel like, took the cap off, ain't no way that like he doesn't stack up to Bakugo or Deku. Like that kid is the definition of just gifted nut. Like he is absolutely insane power level wise. But I think a lot of it is his mentality and where he's at emotionally and just with his development and his life and all that stuff. But I think if he's able to put that behind him and reconcile that and turn that into something constructive, I think he could fuck up. I think like changing the structure of where the story follows, he's gonna be one of the characters, but like we're gonna need him to be there because, like I said, I feel like we've got Bakugo who can fight, Deku who can fight. The rest of this class put together, I would say, like if all these students took on one person, they could win. But like I was saying, we kind of need like more people to like really start stepping into like I can fight a villain on my own league. And right now we only kind of have two, so like we need as many as we can get because these Nomu aren't going to just stop coming. At least I don't think. Yeah,
it might be a biznatch for them to make the Nomus. That's the only thing I could consider as to why they didn't send more. Either that was a test to test the merit, or it's like that thing was like not easy to to create.
Yeah, I think that's what they said in the finale, is that like it took a while to create. But like that doesn't really mean that they can't get better at it.
No,
and like
it's a work in progress.
To be honest, even if we have one that's like slightly weaker, like that thing didn't like fight Endeavor. That thing almost took Endeavor's life, bro. Like that was not an easy fight for Endeavor. So like even if it's a little weaker, you make like 5 of those fuckers. At some point, like quantity just beats quality. Like they're just gonna they're still terrifying.
Yeah, interesting. It looked like you were gonna say something. Were you?
No, I was just like in my head because you were talking about you thought that maybe Bakugo and Deku, like maybe their relationship would have been like fixed by the end of the season, or like they would have moved grounds toward it. I wonder if they're gonna use Todoroki and like as a facade to prolong like the binding of Deku and Itadori, like kind of put them on the sidelines. Have
Bakugo?
What
you said Itadori?
Did I say Itadori?
Yeah.
No, Bakugo and Deku.
Okay.
Sorry, I probably butchered their names. But Bakugo and Deku, I feel like they're not going to solve their relationship in this story, given how recent the movie came out. And even though it's on their minds, I feel like they're going to try to prolong.
Or not, because it got wiped.
Or not, because it got wiped. But I feel like they're going to prolong them coming together, as like a single unit. And the way to keep it running the way it is with the current relationship is insert another character to like keep the show going into another season. And that's where Todoroki comes into play, because it almost seems like a natural segue. And then after everything with Todoroki and all this is resolved, then you can kind of circle the show back to, okay, this is Deku and Bakugo thing. Like, now let's resolve this problem. I have a feeling like if this is right, that is the direction that they're going to go down. I could be completely wrong. It's completely conjecture at this point, but I don't know. That's what I'm thinking they're going to do.
That could be.
Forward.
I am curious. I'm assuming you're right that Todoroki, just by default, because his father is going to have such a major role in the season, obviously gets tagged along with that, and he kind of seems like this middle ground, but definitely has the power scale to compete with these two for sure. Yeah, I don't think Bakugo and Deku are ever going to come to center. Like, if Bakugo's at 100 and Deku's at 0, I think like the most that ever happens is Bakugo comes to 75 and Deku comes to 25.
For the entirety of the show. You don't think that there's going to be a point where they ever come? Because that's what you said. You don't think they're ever going to. So you don't say 3 seasons from now, if it is that long, that there isn't a chance that they are going to be back to like the movie, like when they,
No. So no. Let me explain. That's what I was saying. Like, not in terms of they can't work together, like they definitely will, but I mean just like Bakugo being Bakugo and Deku being Deku, like their personality, right? Like where Bakugo's going. Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying, right? I think like part of that is that they have to look introspectively at their personality and kind of dial it back or up a little bit depending on who they are, whether it's raising a little bit of confidence or whether it's dialing back some of the cockiness, or how willing you are to lay the hurt on someone, how not willing you are, etc. So I guess I was just saying, in terms of like where the show ends at the end, I don't think it comes to like a complete 50-50. I think that like Bakugo's still going to have that like, kind of going to go like not overboard per se, but like have this like rough and tough attitude where like Izuku's going to be a little more like sensitive and lighthearted and stuff like that, just because that's what people love, about certain characters and all that. That's all I
feel like that's fair. Maybe it's not like where it's just like me personally. I really hope that's not the case, because like I just feel like it would get boring, in my opinion. Like, these characters, I feel like they do, especially if they're gonna like because the other thing is they're fucking teenagers right now. Like, I feel like if they're gonna age and become adults, like they have to they have to meet more in the middle, and there has to be more of a compromise than like, because right now they arguably do that now, where it's like Bakugo does work with Deku. He's a dick about it every step of the way, but he does work with Deku, and it's like, I feel like if they, especially, if they get older and especially get into the range of like, I'm going to be a professional hero, like, again, this is kind of what's been echoed in Endeavor's arc. Is like, let's take like Bakugo, you got to step out of this cockiness at some point. You got to realize that being a hero is not just about blowing niggas up. It's not just about getting like the biggest flag. Like, go save somebody, like be a hero, all facets. And then on the flip side with Deku, where it's like, Deku, you're going to have to learn that like being a hero means pulling the trigger even when it's hard to, yada. Like, I feel like the personalities, personally, I do feel like they have to mesh more. They have to, or, not mesh, maybe come more in the middle and do get closer to that 50-50. Maybe they don't get exactly 50-50. But I just feel like it would be very weird, personally, if they like grew up into adults but were like literally the same personality types as if they were kids, because it's like, what happened?
Or the relationship was like All Might and Endeavor, because it's almost like who they are pictured. And I'm like, I feel like they embody that now, of who like Endeavor being Bakugo and like Deku being All Might, but it's like they're the new age version where it's like they're more together and not as separate, but like, kind of have each other's backs, like weirdly enough.
It'd just be weird to like repeat that thing again.
Exactly.
It's like, if it's already been done, like, how would you not like look? That's part of what this is, right? Like, learning from it.
Yeah, I don't think they necessarily have to repeat it, like, even if they don't come to 50-50, we're using these like this 1 to 100 number scaling here, but like, just in general, I guess what I was saying is like, not necessarily like, their personality is kind of inherent to who they are. It's kind of it's kind of difficult to change that. But like, I don't think Bakugo is going to be, like, I don't think it's, even if they did compromise, Bakugo comes down a notch and Deku goes up a notch, but not 5 notches, that like, he doesn't turn into Endeavor, I don't think. And Deku doesn't necessarily turn into All Might. I think Deku's very different from him anyway. But anyway, we're getting sidetracked with that. Point is that I don't think Bakugo is going to change who Bakugo is at the end in the final analysis. Like, he's still going to be Bakugo, and the reason why people gravitate towards Bakugo, right? Because if he goes down too much, then people don't like Bakugo as much as they did anymore because he's not Bakugo. Same thing with Midoriya as well. Watching too much Jujutsu Kaisen, just in general. But anyway, just a side note there. I'm really curious to see where the show ends up, though, and I hope Midoriya just starts throwing some more punches again. I miss when he was throwing hands. He was kind of on this whole like Shoto kick style for a while, and like that'll be cool to incorporate it. But last thing I'm really curious about, actually, we got this in the preview for the next episode, and that is, spoiler alert, that we're going to get a little more backstory on the history of All for One and One for All.
Mm-hmm.
So that will be very interesting to see him. That is something that I'm equally curious about in terms of the show, what the actual story was between those two, how Midoriya's power manifests itself and like the other abilities that it has, right? Because it seems like All Might was just like all into strength stat. So it's like he never even felt the need to go to unlock some of these other things, or at least he hasn't told us, right? It was more of like a meditative state, like back in the Fortress of Solitude type thing where he like, comes to grips with the formers and all that kind of stuff. But when he's fighting, for the most part, it's just like, I am jacked and I'm going to beat your ass, right? Whereas like Deku being a teenager and not quite as big and all that kind of stuff, he's, that's kind of Deku's arc, is he's trying to not exactly be All Might. He can't necessarily replicate that. He has to do his own thing. So I'm assuming that means he's going to utilize different parts of the power, if there are any, and I'm curious to see what those are and how they manifest themselves and how he utilizes those in battles and just in his day-to-day. That's going to be something that's pretty cool with that power, because it almost seems like ancient.
Yeah, and also what the link is between All for One and One for All. That was, again, season 4 finale, that was sort of like what was echoed in that last like scene of when Deku has that dream or vision or whatever it is, and he sees all the past
One for All
others. And but then like on the flip side, as opposed to the One for All, the All for One is like sort of something you take, like it's not given to you, or there's no like the lineage isn't as like official, I guess.
Was there a lineage? I thought it was just the same guy from Frame 1. I thought that the One for All guy or All for One, I don't know, the bad guy. I thought that he was that like it's just been him from the start, like that has.
I thought he got from somebody else.
Yeah, because he's like, I have every quirk imaginable.
Either way, the
mortality's
quirks
got to be one of them.
Like the quirks are almost one. I mean, they're one-to-one of each other. They seem to do this. They seem to operate under the same premise. Let's just say, but obviously they, they're framed differently, right? Like,
because I think he gave it to his brother was the story, because the bad guy his brother was quirkless like Deku, and his brother was like a Deku where he's like, I'm gonna save people and I'm gonna punch you anyway, and the guy's like, here, idiot, like have one of these quirks, you know what I mean? You probably still can't beat my ass, and he's like, oh shit, I gave him the most powerful one, and then it just gets stronger as it goes.
Well, that's what I mean. They operate the same exact way in terms of like how they manifest, but. So I wonder if there's going to be like this, because I think also what the season is at least trying to do or is highlight this idea that like this hero villain line is not as black and white as it looks on the outside, or that it's supposed to be. Like there is some gray, and there is some like, oh, maybe like villains and heroes are these guys are people first, right? They're not just like these cut out archetypes of things that you want, that like they're complex, and maybe some of the villains aren't all bad, maybe some of the heroes aren't, you know what I mean? Like it gets all gray and shit. So that'll be cool.
Yeah, that'll be cool. Anything else in this episode that we may have missed? No.
I don't think
so. Shoto's voice actor is Aaron Yeager. That's pretty cool.
Oh yeah, you guys.
I just figured that out today, and now Shoto's my favorite character. So yeah,
that was weird. I could have sworn I had a conversation with one of you about that, but
yeah, I never knew. Blew my mind. That's crazy. But beyond that, folks, I think we're good. So, listen, folks, if you enjoyed our discussion, make sure you guys are smashing that like button for the YouTube algorithm, subscribing to the channel, and hitting that bell if you are new here, and commenting your thoughts down below. What did you think of our discussion? What did you think of this episode? What are you most excited to see moving forward, etc.? Make sure you guys check us out on the AoA Reacts channel, where you can catch the reaction to the first episode, among many others. The link is in the description down below. Big shout out to our patrons, especially our acolytes at Anime, Stoic, and Nathan. Couldn't do it without you guys. We love all of you from the bottom of our heart. This will be the first one we have. So in terms of question of the day here, if anyone has one,
what are the names, like specific names of Deku in Bakugo's quirks?
There you go. So for those of you who may be new here, maybe some new My Hero folks have hopped along, we do a comment of the day. So when we hop into one of these discussions here at the end, we will take a comment from our previous video of those who answered the question. So that's what the question was. So answer it and then write your comment, and we might just shout you out in our next episode and ask or say your comment. I need to go to bed. All right. Anyway, folks, beyond that, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you on the flip. Peace. Plus Ultra.
Plus Ultra! Ninjas are samurais, blaze of the kunais. Find me in the leaf of the cloud, screaming out Bankai. We just some ghouls though, who like seeing parts fly. They like what you saying, Goma got more through the storylines. I tested your neck from the start, my hunters gon' come for your heart. I promise you'll land in my boulevard, left them in one piece, no